Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is going to be a new type of video because this is the only time I've done this in my entire reading journey, but I have completed reading all of the 1973 issues of Garo. So I am super happy about that. It took quite a while, months and months, probably more than half a year. But these are the issues here. I'll just show you the spines because they're my favorite spines ever. So that's half of them, and then the other half is over here. So yeah, this is the first time I've completed reading an entire year, and it's actually the only year I have completed in terms of collecting its issues. So I guess the format of this video will be like the first part of it will be me going through my general thoughts, reflecting. So what I liked about it, what I didn't like, why I started collecting this this year's issue in the first place. If you wanted to get some of these issues, what sort of things they offer, that sort of talk. And then later I prepared a list of in each issue I've chosen my favorite stories, and so I'll go through those stories, but they're not going to be in full detail. They're just going to be more of like, if you want a picture of what 1973 Garo is like, then that might be for you. So it'll just be a little showcase of each one, and I'll also at the end tell you which one is my favorite issue out of the entire year, because damn, this was a good year of Garo. And yeah, it's, if you want a detailed flip through of each of these issues, I have done a manga magazine spotlight for most of them so far. I think I haven't done January and probably October to December. So check out my Garo magazine playlist if you want that in detail. But yeah, so we'll start off. So this first section, I'll just kind of be just flicking through these issues as I talk. But how I started with collecting 1973 issues. So in the first place, when it came to collecting Garo issues in general, when I first started, because everything was new to me, I didn't really care for which artists were inside the issue. I mainly collected them for the cover art, because I didn't really know too much about Garo anyway, so every single issue would be new in terms of its manga. So I was like, all right, might as well collect all the cool looking ones. And as I collected all of these Garo issues over the past couple of years, I found that 1973 cover illustrations are some of my favorites. So you have a really wide variety of them, and I love the format that they have of like, the artwork takes up so much space for each of the issues. And they're so colorful as well. Like, each of these are super, super colorful. It's a good range of colors. But another cool thing about the cover illustrations of 1973 is that a lot of them are actually on the rarer side in terms of the mangaka. So, for example, this is one of the few Tsuge Taro covers that he did for Garo, other than the cover illustration he did for his special issue. So this one, I remember, took me so long to find because it never popped up at all. So I guess it was kind of on the rarer side. Another rarer thing as well is, here is a Hanawa Kazuichi cover, one of the few that he's done. I think he's only done like 2 or 3 in all of Garo's run. And I believe this is the only Akasegawa Genpei cover illustration that he did for Garo too. So it's just so many of these are like on the rarer side of mangaka contributing artworks to the cover illustrations. So that was something that I found really cool about this year. But yeah, collecting 70s issues in general. Now, I've had a good amount of experience reading Garo issues, that I've dabbled in each of the decades from the 60s to the 2000s. I won't say that I've read that many Garo issues, probably 30 or 40, but I think I've read around enough to solidify my preferences. So I feel that from what I've read, the 70s issues are my favorites. So the 70s decade is my favorite decade of Garo so far, and there's a couple of reasons why. It's because you get a really good concentration of those Gekiga artists that we all know and love. So you have, in 1973 actually, you don't actually get much of the Tsuge Yoshiharu's or Shirato Sanpei or anything like that. You get some of the earlier generation of Gekiga artists like Hayashi Seiichi has contributed maybe 2 or 3 chapters, a bit of Mizuki Shigeru in here too, but it's a lot more dominated, I would say, of from the artists that were kind of inspired by people like Tsugi Yoshiharu and Shirato Sanpei. And these would be artists like Oji Suzuki, Furukawa Mazuzo, Shinichi Abe. Those sort of Gekiga artists populate the 73 issues a lot more. And it's great because, you know, they're not the only ones. It's still a good mix. You still have some of those older artists like Hayashi Seiichi popping up. But mainly it will be them. And on top of that, it's not only them because you get a good mix. So you have the usual Susumu Katsumata. You have a lot of gag and nonsense mangaka like Fujisawa Mitsuo, like Yuzan Aki over here. So, and of course, Ero Guro as well. I think Hanawa, there was a Hanawa chapter here. Yep. Hanawa too. You have your usual slice of life drama things, and you've also got the newcomer recruitments or awards. So it's a good variety, but if you are looking for a Garo issue or a Garo year to buy and collect, 73 would be great if you like artists like Kusunoki Shohei, the 1-2-3 trio. So Oji Suzuki, Shinichi Abe, Mazuzo Furukawa. There's not if you're looking for people like Yoshiharu Tsuge or Sasaki Maki even, or Tsuge Taro, because Taro only has a couple in this year. If you're looking for them, try go a bit earlier. So earlier in the 70s or in the 60s, definitely, you will find their stories a lot more. Same thing for Hayashi Seiichi as well. But yeah, depending on what you are looking for. And so what I would say as well is, you know, not all of the mangaka that I've seen in 73 I like. For example, Kawasaki Yukio, unfortunately, is not too much of my thing. I found their works a bit long and not as interesting for me. Another one would be Akiyama Shigenobu, which they do appear a lot. For example, if I could pull up, yeah, this is a work by Akiyama Shigenobu. Not my thing. Mangaka like Ko Shintaro as well, I didn't really care for too much. I would say too that a hit or miss for me in these issues would be Susumu Katsumata. So I don't really like Katsumata's 4-panel works, and in terms of his longer stories like these that are more focused on yokai, rural towns, supernatural, that sort of thing, it's a 50-50. So some of them I really liked, some of them I haven't liked. So yeah, that's another artist that is a hit or miss for me. And of course, when it comes to the newcomer recruitments, half-half. Some have been insanely good. Some have been like, okay. And another thing I want to talk about with hit or misses would be Oji Suzuki and Shinichi Abe. Pictured here, I think, is Shinichi Abe. Yeah, Shinichi Abe, Tenkoku. So one thing I really love about Oji Suzuki and Shinichi Abe is how dark the atmosphere is. It's very gloomy and somber. The artwork is amazing as well. But their stories are very hard to get into. It's very confusing. Dialogue could be very confusing as well. So that's the 50-50 for me. Love reading their stories in terms of just getting absorbed into the atmosphere of everything, but it's that the stories can be quite tough, especially with Shinichi Abe, knowing his backstory with like mental health and him going to a cult and everything like that. Oji Suzuki is a bit less convoluted for me. Some of the stories are a lot more straightforward, like magical realism, which I can understand, but some of the stories can be as confusing as Shinichi Abe. And I do want to say collecting these issues were a bit tough because some of these issues are a lot more on the expensive side and on the rarer side. So this one took a while for it to really pop up for me to buy. So if you are looking to collect the entire run, then I guess look out for some of these rarer issues, because other issues or other decades, I feel 60, sorry, I think it's definitely more cheap, but I don't know if it's hard to collect a full run or not, because again, this is my only full run of a Garo year. But yeah, a lot of the 70s issues are quite expensive, just because a lot of those really well-known artists on there. Like, I know 1971 and 1972 issues, damn, they're hefty sometimes, because they've got everyone like Hayashi Seiichi or Sasaki Maki and everything like that. So really packed issues means that the issues themselves will go for a lot more. And something as well, which is depending on the reader and your preferences. For me, one of the reasons I like the 70s issues a lot, or the earlier issues of Garo, is because they have less mangaka in each issue. And what that means is that it allows for longer stories. Because I noticed from my reading from 80s and 90s Garo issues, you have a lot more people in each issue. So for example, these are like 8 to 10 mangaka per issue. But in 80s issues and 90s issues, you have so many more artists that their stories are sometimes can be only a couple pages long. So for me personally, I do prefer this number, where it's like, it's a good enough, like an average number where you could round off and have everyone have a story that is at least, 30 pages or something like that. That's something that I prefer more than having 20 artists with 10-page stories. It's not the only thing that 80s and 90s Garo issues are like. It's just, in general, that's what I've seen. And it's a lot more Heta Uma based as well. So Heta Uma, you're going to see more in the 80s onwards. So again, depending on what you are looking for. And throughout 1973, we had a couple of serialized works. So I think Kawasaki Yukio has all these stories here. We had the Purple Legend series, as pictured here by Masazo Furukawa. We also had Picarditopia by, not Yusanaki, this is Iwamoto Kyusoku, a gag series. We also had, pictured here in the cover, Traveler-kun is another serialized work for Nagashima Shinji, of a boy just going about traveling and finding weird stuff. Fujisawa Mitsuo had a couple as well, pictured here. They had their Jarira series, and I think Giriak Funguridan is another series they had. So some serialized stuff that would appear frequently throughout 73, but mainly one-shots, not too much continuation, which I like actually. That means that you don't have to collect 5 issues just to read one story that is split up into 5 chapters. You can just pick up one of these issues and then enjoy all of the contained one-shots. And another thing that I'll talk about that I absolutely loved from 1973's run, the Newcomer Awards or Newcomer Recruitments. I've had a couple of reads of these newcomer recruitments that have just blown my mind away. A lot of them are so detailed in their art. It's just amazing. And unfortunately, some of the manga that appear in these newcomer recruitment sections have only contributed a couple issues in Garo, or maybe they've contributed outside of Garo. But if you are collecting Garo issues, for example, this one is an untitled chapter by Hisashi Sakaguchi. This is an example of a newcomer chapter that I absolutely love. And, they haven't really contributed anything else in Garo other than 2 or 3 other works. So stuff like this that I really look forward to for each Garo issue, those newcomer recruitments. And there usually is about maybe 2 per issue, something like that. So yeah. And then, so we're at, this is a really cool one as well, Fujisawa Mitsuo cover. And talking about Eroguro, it's 73 is not going to be, if you are looking for more heavy focus on the Edoguro is not going to be a year for you if you're looking specifically for that, because the only Edoguro throughout the entire year is just the couple of Hanawa Kazuichi chapters that appear throughout. So I believe maybe 3 or 4 in this year's run. In terms of Hanawa, there's no Maruo yet. So yeah, not as heavy on that influence. Okay, and then we've got the September issue here. But yeah, in terms of my plans for Garo collecting in general, I'm not looking to buy any more Garo issues for the foreseeable future until I finish reading all of my current Garo issues. So I think, I don't remember, I have a spreadsheet, but I have a lot. I have more than 50 Garo issues. I've probably read half of them by now, I would guess. So yeah, it's I will try to read all of them first before I really get into collecting other years. So you won't see another year reflection video of Garo for quite a while, but hopefully I'm looking to get back into doing the Garo spotlights in the future. As of right now, like as I said before, I stopped reading Garo for about 3 months just because I don't know if I would say I was burnt out from it, but there was other stuff that I wanted to read more. And it's not like I stopped reading Garo manga or mangaka. I did read, their tankobon, but not the actual issues themselves. Because sometimes it can be tiring for me to read manga magazine issues because I've got to note down every single author and the stories and search them up if I've never heard of them before. So that's why I took a break from Garo, and also I read a bit of Axe, but not as much. Garo is my main focus at the moment. But yeah, I just need to do a couple more manga spotlights for the rest of the 1973 issues that I haven't covered, and then I can start looking at other years. So I'm going to quickly do a flip through of everything in the last 2 issues, and then I think I'll move on to actually showing off each of my favorite stories from all the issues. Here it is, last one, December. Yeah, but hopefully this video will get you to be more interested or start maybe even copying your own Garo issues, because Garo is my favorite manga magazine of all time, obviously. Okay, so that's the first section done of the video, just me reflecting on reading Garo and my thoughts, my likes, my dislikes. So that was quite fun for me to just look back on and talk about. So now we are going to go through each issue, and I'm going to quickly mention which stories are my favorite. So some issues would only have one, some will have a lot more. And I'm going to only give a brief explanation of each because check out my manga magazine spotlights for a detailed look into that. So this is the first issue here, January, covered by Kawasaki Yukio. So I only actually had one favorite story in this, and this was one called Circus by Oji Suzuki. And essentially it's a story about a boy who goes to a circus and he watches like the acrobatics or the dangerous stuff, but in the background he sees a woman and her child. The woman's crying. It's probably because one of the acrobats is like a family member. And it ends there. So I love that because I love the black and white when it comes to Oji Suzuki, but I love how simple it was, and just the zoom in of the kid's wonder and him just looking to the right and seeing her crying just gives you that sort of extra perspective when it comes to kids realizing things about them. So yeah, that was my favorite story from that first issue. And then the second issue, let me just rearrange stuff real quick. All right, this is the Feb issue, covered by Shinichi Abe. And for this issue also, I only had one favorite story. It's also a cool issue because I've got like a printing error for this. The story that I liked from this issue was a Hanawa Kazuichi story called Kaidan Neko, or Stair Cat. And honestly, most of the Hanawa chapters that came in this year's Garo I loved. So this one is a weird one about a cat, or like a nun of sorts that's going to die, and this cat, she has like visions of this cat acting weird. And yeah, it's a very short story, only like a couple pages long, but I absolutely love the art here. As always with Hanawa. So that was the Feb issue, third one, covered by Nagashima Shinji. I had a couple here. Actually, I had two. So the first one, Kusunoki Shohei. So I absolutely love Kusunoki Shohei and all the stuff that I've read from him. This is called Dancing in Colorful Snow. And it's quite a sad one. That's the reason why I liked it, because it's quite heartfelt. This is about a kid who is quite sick, and he's just at home, you know, trying to recover. And in the distance, he spots a bird which starts talking. And essentially the entire story is about him recovering, but slowly as he gets worse and worse, he, you know, looks to the birds more until finally, you know, he's talking to the birds here. Finally, it snows and it's showing him flying into the sky like a bird would. But of course, it's sad because, you know, it means that he has passed away. So very sad story. And it's also sad to know as well, because Kusunoki Sho himself died quite young from, I believe, an illness as well. So yeah, really sad story, but a very hard-hitting one. So that was one of my favorites there. And then another one is at the back, Madam D by Hayashi Seiichi, one of the few Seiichi stories here. It's cool because I got this issue that got drawn on by whoever owned it. So the story, I don't have no idea what it was about because it's so confusing, but I love the arts. I love the black ink again for Hayashi Seiichi. And the negative space here too. Some amazing artworks. And then you have the lily in the back. All right, next one, April, cover by Susumu Katsumata. This I have two stories. So this story here by Susumu Katsumata is called Time of the Ox. This is actually a story that I liked from him. So it won the 50-50. So it's essentially following this woman who curses someone using the what was it, the Ushi no Kokumai curse thing, where you get like a straw doll. Let me see if I can find it here. You get a straw doll and you hammer it into a tree and you curse someone with it. But I think it's like if someone watches you or sees you doing it, the curse won't work. So it's about that. So quite a strong story. And then another one by Kusunoki Shohei that I really loved is called, is it back here? Yes. This one was kind of just about a psycho. This one was called Kiyoshi Nakadoko. I think it's just the name of the guy. But it's pretty much just following a psycho hairdresser over here. Because at the end, he's a very weird guy. At the end, you can see him give in to his desires a little bit more, and he cuts into the skin of his victim. And here he is just laughing away. So, Psycho Killer. Favorite chapter from there. Okay, let's go to May. So May had a couple of these actually. May was a really good issue. This is a cover by Tsuge Taro. So the first one that I loved was again by Kusunoki Shohei. So I feel like Kusunoki Shohei is an MVP for me for 1973. So this one is called Demon Love. And it's a wordless chapter following this thunder god. I think it's like Raijin or something. Following a woman here who's just sitting in the river reading, and it's him overlooking her, and even in her room he overlooks her too. So an open-ended story, but really thought-provoking. I think, you know, demon love. you have this like we don't know anything about the two except their encounter with that. So another Kusunoki Shoyo chapter. And then we've got a Hanawa one, Warrior Woman. This is a lot more graphic. It is essentially a revenge sort of story where we have a woman who has been hiding her husband from the war because she likes to keep him in a little container somewhere. Let me just... Okay, here's some of the cool art. But again, I can't show much. Yeah, she likes to torture him in a container here. And then his sister finds out and they get revenge on her. So great one, another cool Hanawa story. And then we had another one called, oh yeah, another wordless one. This is the only, I think one of the few Fujisawa Mitsuo chapters I liked. So this is called Inchworm. It's also a wordless one, which is just made basically nonsense. I just love the crazy stuff that happens here. Very Sasaki Maki-esque, but has its own style, of course. Then you have a little intro over here. And then this is the first newcomer recruitment that I loved out of the issues in chronological order. This is called Inhuman Love by Gon Yasutoshi. So Gon Yasutoshi had 3 stories in 73, I think. And they were all so good. So this one, the artwork is insanely good. I remember being so blown away by this when I saw it for the first time and being sad that no tankobon has ever been released for their works. I don't know anything about them either. So this one is about, I think it was, their mother passed away. And this boy is just in the house. His father is with a sick mother. And it just turns out that after the boy grows up, he comes back, meets his father. Just an insane panel here. Oh, it's so good, so good. This is what I mean by the newcomer recruitments being like one of the best things of this year. He finds that the mother had been turned into a doll, or like they made a doll replica of the mother as well. But the highlight of that is just how moody it was, with how detailed all of the art was. Very dark. And I think, yeah, that was the last favorite story of that one. So let's go on to June. Hanawa Kazuichi cover. So June also had 3. So you're going to see a pattern for my favorites, because the first one we have is another Hanawa chapter. And this Hanawa chapter is actually translated in English now. I don't remember which one it was, either Red Night or Light of the Moon, one of them. But this is called Causation. I think I translated as, but I don't know what it was called in English. But guilt. An executioner going through the hallucinations of guilt. So here we have him just killing for his job, and he cheats essentially. They kill his original partner, and over time he suffers the consequence as his babies become cursed. His new wife is also dragged into the lake, and it's just him sitting there pondering and just going insane after that. But another chapter of extremely detailed and gory artwork by Hanawa. And then first appearance actually in Garo, we have a debut story of Kano Osamu. So I have shown off Kano Osamu in the past, but this one is called Starry Night Story. So this was actually their debut in Garo. And this is about a guy who meets another guy that for a living pretty much just watches and collects stars until they get so star obsessed themselves. So it's quite a short one, but I loved it because of how simple it was, and it's kind of awesome too. And last but not least, yet another Kusunoki Shohei chapter somewhere called Toshi. This one is actually a wholesome one. So Toshi is a simple story about a boy who watches this like magician in the streets turn paper into birds, and the boys just want to replicate that. use their imagination to do that themselves. And that's the whole story. So I liked it because it was a nice mood change. It's cute, it's wholesome. And then we have, so we're halfway through now. July we have two. This is a cover by Akasegawa Genpei, and of course, one of my favorite stories, Oza Shiki, which is a parody of Tsuge Yoshiharu's Neji Shiki. So if you have read the original, then reading this is so fun because it's essentially just about the mangaka, instead of like going on a journey to fix his arm, he's got to get his deadline sorted for his manga. And there's a lot of references to other Garo mangaka and Nagai Katsuichi. This is the Lee family by Tsuge Yoshiharu as well. So it's just a full-on parody story that is really fun and just a fun experience to read. And Akasegawa's artwork is always so good too. And then we have the second story I liked, which is another newcomer one. This is the untitled story by Sakaguchi Hisashi. So this one is mainly about metamorphosis after experiencing the loss or death of a loved one. So it's very visual. It's like a visual metaphor of this guy breaking out of his shell and changing, or maybe it's a visual representation of the person he had lost, like floating away from him, and it's just him as an empty shell. Very sad, but strong, very hard-hitting. Okay, number 8, August. Cover illustration by Fujisawa Mitsuo. It's a very cute one. And Jarida, I actually really love this Jarida one. This one was about, I think this was just the kids fighting. Oh, no. This was about these kids are fighting, and then one of the kids has injured their eye. And so they do all of these stupid methods to try and fix it. So I thought it was just really funny because it's just a gag story. I try fixing it, but doesn't really work in the end. And then next story I really liked was this one, Hanbe, by Susumu Katsumata. So this one was about the Kappa one. So Susumu has done quite a number of Kappa stories, but this is one of my favorites from them. It's about a little boy who has he has a deal with this Kappa. In order for the Kappa to fulfill his wishes of diving in and collecting these like dinosaur bones, he has to give the Kappa a drink, so sake. So he goes down and dives in there. But with Kappa, what happens is that their sex can change or something. So Hanbe later gets pregnant, and she can no longer collect the dinosaur bones for the boy. And so the boy's sad, gets angry, but towards the end it's a bit sad. The Kappa over here, Hanbe, comes with their kids and gives the boy the dinosaur bones in secret. Alright, next one. So August, this issue has quite a number of stories. Most of the stories I actually found I loved a lot. So this is another one of the first favorite story I have from Furukawa Mazuzo called S8. And it's this weird dystopian story of this little creature. All it can do is climb this web and keep climbing it. And sometimes, like the story describes, that sometimes there can be disruptions, things that fall and break the web. This little guy can see other little dudes climbing as well, and you see the universe up here. There can be some predators. It passes through dead bodies, and it's just very existential of a story. So this is a predator there. So one of my favorite Furukawa stories of all time. And then another one is another recruitment award. What was it? It's another one by Sakaguchi Hisashi. What page was this? Sakaguchi 119. Okay. There we go. Another untitled work. This time of an old man walking up the stairs, quite sick, and he coughs out his heart, puts it in a jar, and he just flies off into the air with the heart left behind. And another favorite story, Pachinko. This is the debut work of Ebisu Yoshikazu in Garo. So Pachinko is a weird one. It's about a guy who needs to go to find a pachinko parlor, but on his journey, he runs into a couple of obstacles and can't really get to the pachinko parlor that he wants. And it's about him observing all the different things that happen along the way. Yeah, that was cool. Debut chapter of Pachinko. So there's 2 more stories in this issue that I loved. So August was so packed. This one is 1975 by Masumura Hiroshi, and although I didn't understand the story too much, the artwork is what amazed me the most. It's about a talking cat and a guy, and they go on a walk talking about something very confusing, but they encounter a snake. But it's just, the artwork is so good. Like the dotted work they do across the chapter gives it so much texture. Great use of just like desolate black backgrounds as well. And the cat is just so detailed. Hiroshi does a lot of stuff with cats though, if you have seen some of the other work. And then the final story that I love, this one is the Chitaro Strange Story by Mizuki Shigeru. My favorite Mizuki work of all time, although I haven't really read that much Mizuki. But essentially it's about this little boy here, this little demon baby of a boy that was born, did not speak anything except the word death for quite a while, and he gets into an obsession reading Dracula. And so, because Dracula is essentially his Bible, he wants to become a vampire. And how he does that is he eventually finds himself a bat, a vampire bat, and gets it to bite him. And he tries to like turn into a vampire, essentially. But towards the end, we see him drop dead here until he is visited by this vampire. But you know, we don't know whether this is real or if he had actually died and this is him hallucinating before he died. So yeah, August was such a packed issue. If you just want one issue, I recommend this one, because spoilers, I mean, you probably tell that one was my favorite issue out of the entire 73 year. But September, actually quite a couple as well. So September, we have yet another work by Hanawa called Hot. Just about like a woman in pain, torture, that sort of stuff. Also translated in English as well. But there's like a little twist towards the end. And then we have a Furukawa story again called Sea of Fear. Love this one because most of it was these double page spreads, essentially about this guy living in the middle of an ocean, and the landscape changes, walks on the beach. It's very moody, very existential, but every single page is a double page spread, so it was a visual pleasure to read through all of this. And then we have a newcomer story that I really liked. This is called In the Case of C016 by Shimura Mitsuo, a sci-fi story that was quite violent about these robots taking over Earth, burning up every human in them, except one of the robots, C016, starts questioning why they're doing it. And so it goes against its boss's orders and protects the last 2 humans on Earth as they escape. So quite a strong one. Was not expecting to see sci-fi in 73 of Garo, but really good. And then the last one is again another Kusunoki Shohei chapter. So honestly, yeah, MVP of 1973. This one is called The Flow of Gose, and it's quite a sad one because we follow this boy who is kind of like ungrateful for his family and his mum, because his mum is quite sick and he gets pissed off because it like annoys him that he has to take care of her, but she is such an angel that she doesn't get angry at him, and he escalates it to a point where he like, where is it? Somewhere here. where he stabs her. Yeah, where he stabs her. He's like he's had enough of it because he views her as just like a nuisance. But the mum, the angel that she is, still hugs him, and he starts to regret it, and she dies. Quite a sad story, but at the end here shows that he's with someone now who reminds him of his mum. So yeah, tough, tragic story of a kid who is ungrateful, but like Kusanagi Show has so many good stories that are really like emotional. That's the main reason why I love his story. So we're on to the last couple of issues now. This is October, cover by I should have said this cover is by Hayashi Seishi. This cover is by Furukawa Masato. So I only had one story in this book that I liked. It's a newcomer story called Express Animal by Morimoto Kiyohiko. Over here, Express Animal. So it's essentially just we see a really weird train. Pretty much. That's like the gist of the story, but love the texture on the artwork. You have some really weird things happening. Like, see some weird people doing some weird things on the train, near the train station. Yeah, that's essentially the story. You know, hanging by their mouths. That's all it takes sometimes for me to enjoy a story. If it's just weird, then I like it. So that was the October issue. And funnily enough, this issue here, covered by Masumura Hiroshi, is the only issue that I did not like any of the stories for. Or like, I wouldn't say did not like, but none of it was like a favorite or memorable. So unfortunately, nothing in November. And then in December, we have one of them. It's called After a Bath, also by a newcomer. Here it is, After a Bath by Kimura Shigeo. So this one was funny because this guy meets another old man that talks to him about his struggles of like selling manga and all that type of stuff. And it's a bit on the comedic side. For some reason they get blinded by this weird light, and then it's revealed that the person, like all of this by the way, there's this person just like talking about all these different Garo artists like Shinichi Abe, Akiyama Shigenobu, Susumu Katsumata, just like talking about it until it's revealed it's Nagai Kazuichi, the co-founder and head editor of Garo. And yeah, it's just a funny reveal. It's just like, oh, your chief has just been like spewing all this in disguise. And that was the only story I liked from this issue. So that was pretty much the end of this video. My favorite issue out of 1973 is this one over here. August issue, cover by Fujisawa Mitsuo. If I were to recommend any issue out of this entire year, it would have to be this one because most of the stories, I loved it. So we had Fujisawa Mitsuo, Susumu Katsumata, Furukawa Masato, Sakaguchi Hisashi, debut of Ebisu, Masamura Hiroshi, and we had one of the few Mizuki Shigeru chapters in this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's quite a different one, but I really enjoyed reading this year of 1973 and getting back into Garo. So hopefully this convinces you to either get into Garo or maybe start collecting it, because covers are amazing, the artists are amazing, everything about this year was just so fun to go through. So yeah, finally happy that I completed a full year after more than like 6 months of reading this. All right, we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.